Beloved chosen one, there is a reason your spirit has been carrying a weight that your mouth could not explain. There is a reason you have felt pulled away from noise, away from applause, away from the need to prove yourself to people who never had the eyes to see what God was shaping in you. You thought you were simply surviving a quiet season, but heaven calls it something else. Heaven calls it hidden obedience. Heaven calls it sacred alignment. Heaven calls it the season where your yes mattered more than your visibility. While others needed to be seen, you learned how to move when no one clapped. While others announced every small sacrifice, you kept walking in faith even when the road gave you no sign, no guarantee, and no human reward. This is why this moment is not ordinary. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. You have obeyed in rooms where nobody knew your name. You have held your peace when you could have defended yourself. You have walked away from doors that looked promising because something in your spirit knew they were not sent by God. You have stayed faithful in places that gave you no comfort. You have chosen discipline over impulse, restraint over revenge, prayer over panic, and trust over control. And because you obeyed in secret, something is changing above you before it appears around you. The angels are not responding to performance. They are responding to surrender. They are responding to the quiet decisions you made when your heart was tired and your soul was asking for relief. They are responding to the nights when nobody saw the tears. Yet you still whispered, "Lord, I will trust you." That is why you must not misread the season you are in. The silence was never proof that you were forgotten. The delay was never proof that you were denied. The hiddenness was never punishment. It was protection. It was preparation. It was the holy covering of a God who knew that if he exposed you too early, people would try to name what they did not build, control what they did not birth, and interfere with what they did not understand. So he kept you low for a while. He let your roots go deep before your branches stretched wide. He let your character be formed where only heaven could testify. And now the very obedience that seemed unnoticed is becoming the reason you cannot remain in the dark any longer. There are things being lifted off your life in this hour. Heavy thoughts, old accusations, weariness that tried to settle in your bones, shame that tried to speak louder than grace, confusion that tried to make you question whether any of your sacrifice mattered. It mattered. Every act of obedience mattered. Every time you bit your tongue when anger wanted a throne, it mattered. Every time you kept showing up when discouragement whispered that nothing would change, it mattered. Every time you chose the narrow path instead of the easy one, heaven marked it down. The God who sees in secret never loses count. He does not overlook the private battles that produced your present strength. He does not ignore the hidden altar where you laid down your pride, your fear, your plans, and your timing. He watched it all. He honored it all. And now he is sending movement where there once was stillness. You may have wondered why some people could play games and still seem to rise while you remained in the background. You may have wondered why compromise appeared to open doors faster than consecration. But your life was never going to be built on what is temporary. Your calling was never designed to stand on illusion. God was building something weighty in you, something clean, something durable, something that could carry light without being destroyed by it. That kind of formation cannot be rushed. That kind of elevation cannot be faked. That is why your process has been different. That is why your road has been lonelier. That is why your spirit has been trained in quiet places. You are not behind. You are being made ready for a kind of lifting that will not collapse under pressure. So hear this clearly. Do not despise the secret place that trained you. Do not grieve the season that made you lean into God with all your heart. Do not call yourself forgotten when heaven has been watching with fierce attention. You are closer than you think to a breaking point in the spirit. Not the kind that destroys you, but the kind that releases you. Something is opening. Something is shifting. Something that has stood still for too long is beginning to move because your obedience has spoken louder than your frustration. Your yes has a sound in heaven. Your faithfulness has a fragrance in heaven. Your surrender has weight in heaven. And what carries weight in heaven eventually creates movement on earth. So let your heart steady itself now. Let your breathing slow. Let your soul come into agreement with what God is saying over you. You are not buried. You are planted. You are not hidden because you are weak. You are hidden because you are precious. You are not waiting because nothing is happening. You are waiting because unseen hands are arranging what seen hands could never accomplish. The light that is coming over your life will not be artificial, and it will not need human permission. It will be the kind of light that comes from divine timing, divine favor, and divine command. And when it begins to shine, you will understand why God kept you close, kept you quiet, and kept you covered. If this confirms what your spirit has been sensing, comment 777 as your sign of agreement. Not because a number has power, but because your agreement matters. The moment you align your heart with what heaven is speaking, something in you stands up again. Something in you remembers that obedience was never wasted. Something in you remembers that your secret yes was heard. Chosen one, stay near to God. Stay soft in spirit. Stay willing. The same heaven that watched you obey in the dark is now preparing to lift you into the light. You begin to understand that the heaviest form of obedience is not the kind that happens in public, where somebody can admire it, reward it, or call it noble. The heaviest form of obedience happens when you carry a burden in silence and still refuse to turn bitter. It happens when the answer does not come quickly, when the room grows cold around your faith, when the people you hoped would understand you stand at a distance and let you walk through the valley alone. This is the place where many souls become hard. This is the place where many people decide that purity costs too much, trust asks too much, and patience takes too much. But you have been held in a different kind of training. You have been learning how to obey while your heart aches, how to remain steady while your name is misunderstood, and how to keep your inner life surrendered even when your outer life feels stripped down to almost nothing. That is why this part of your journey carries such deep weight. Secret obedience is not just about doing the right thing when nobody is watching. It is also about enduring the emotional cost of that choice without allowing pain to rewrite your character. You know what it is to do what God required and still feel isolated afterward. You know what it is to walk away from something you could have touched, could have taken, could have justified, only to find yourself alone with the consequences of integrity. That kind of loneliness cuts deep because it leaves no visible wound, yet the soul feels it, the mind feels it, the body feels it. It is the quiet exhaustion of doing right while life gives you no immediate evidence that right will be rewarded. This is where the life of Joseph begins to move beside your own like a lamp in a dark corridor. Joseph did not step into glory in a single moment. He first stepped into rejection. He was given dreams, but those dreams did not make his path easier. They made him a target. He was misunderstood by those closest to him, envied by the ones who should have protected him, and thrown away before he ever came near the promise he had seen. Yet even there, the hidden story was not just about betrayal. It was about obedience under pressure. Joseph could have allowed the violence done to him to corrupt what was within him. He could have made resentment his shelter. He could have decided that if people had treated him without honor, then honor no longer mattered. But God was shaping something in him that could not be formed through comfort. You know this feeling. Chosen one. You know what it means to carry something precious inside while your surroundings make no room for it. You know what it means to be treated like your value is negotiable while heaven has already marked you with purpose. And perhaps the most difficult part is that hidden obedience often looks like weakness to those who do not understand spiritual strength. When you stay quiet instead of proving yourself, they think you have no fire. When you forgive instead of retaliating, they think you have no power. When you remain faithful instead of manipulating outcomes, they think you are naive. But heaven sees what earth misreads. Heaven knows that restraint can be holier than reaction, and surrender can be stronger than self-assertion. Joseph learned this in places nobody would have chosen. He learned it in the pit, where the noise of betrayal must have echoed in his mind. He learned it on the road into slavery, where every step away from home could have convinced him that God had abandoned him. He learned it in service, where he had to function with excellence in a life he never asked for. He learned it long before a palace ever entered the picture. That is the hidden truth many people miss. The elevation was not the whole miracle. The greater miracle was that Joseph remained inwardly aligned with God while moving through conditions that could have shattered him. You are being invited into that same understanding now. The silent sacrifice you have carried is not meaningless just because it has been invisible. The grief you swallowed so you would not sin with your mouth is not lost. The tears you shed in private prayer are not unrecorded. The nights you lay still, too weary to explain yourself to anyone, yet still turned your heart toward God, were not wasted nights. They were forming oil in you. They were deepening your roots. They were teaching you how to live from a place that applause cannot build and rejection cannot destroy. Scripture says the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. In Genesis chapter 39, verse 21. That verse does not appear in the palace. It appears in confinement. It appears in limitation. It appears in a place where outwardly nothing looked victorious, yet that is exactly the point. God was with Joseph before the lifting. God was with Joseph in the hidden cost, in the unanswered questions, in the silent endurance, and God is with you there too. Not later, not someday, not only when the evidence becomes visible, but here, now, in the very place where obedience feels expensive. So do not rush past this sacred part of your story. There is something holy in the way you have kept your spirit from collapsing. There is something beautiful in the way you have continued to bend toward God while carrying pain that would have made others close themselves off. This is not weakness. This is refinement. This is not abandonment. This is companionship with God in the hidden chamber where character is formed and trust is purified. And though you may still feel the ache of what obedience has cost you, heaven is not asking you to carry that ache forever without purpose. It is revealing that the very place of silent sacrifice is becoming the ground from which your next rising will begin. There comes a point in hidden obedience where the pain is no longer just about waiting. It becomes about loss, not imagined loss, but real loss, tangible loss. The kind that leaves an empty space where something familiar used to be. You obeyed, and something left. You obeyed, and a door closed behind you. You obeyed, and what once felt secure was removed from your hands before you had the strength to understand why. This is where the soul trembles, because it is one thing to trust God while hoping to keep everything. It is another thing to trust Him when obedience requires release, That kind of surrender reaches into the deepest chambers of your heart. It touches attachment. It touches desire. It touches the need to know what comes next. And still, you were asked to let go. This is why your journey has felt so costly. You were not merely asked to believe pleasant promises. You were asked to place beloved things on the altar without a full explanation. You were asked to walk away from what made emotional sense because heaven was calling you into something truer than comfort. There were moments when obedience did not feel noble. It felt empty. It felt unfair. It felt like watching something slip through your fingers while heaven remained silent. But that silence was not cruelty. That silence was the deep work of God teaching you that when He asks for release, He is never trying to reduce you. He is making room for a greater alignment than your present eyes can measure. Joseph knew this ache in a way that speaks directly into your own hidden places. Before he ever stood in any place of honor, he knew what it meant to lose what was familiar. He lost home. He lost the covering of his father's household. He lost the ordinary rhythm of life that once surrounded him. None of that happened because he was rebellious against God. It happened while the hand of God was still upon him. That is one of the hardest truths for a faithful heart to accept. Sometimes divine purpose does not prevent the experience of loss. Sometimes divine purpose carries you through loss, so that something eternal can be built where something temporary once stood. Joseph could have spent his days clinging in spirit to what had already been taken. He could have built his identity around what he lost. He could have let memory become a prison stronger than the walls around him. But hidden obedience asks something else of a chosen soul. It asks you to keep moving with God even when part of you is still grieving what was surrendered. It asks you to remain open to the future without pretending the loss did not hurt. It asks you to trust that what has left your hand has not escaped the sight of heaven. This is where your story begins to mirror His. You have grieved things that others never even knew you were carrying. You have smiled through departures that changed you. You have kept walking after releases that left your spirit shaken. Yet somehow, beneath the ache, a deeper yes remained. That yes is holy. That yes is costly. That yes is what separates superficial faith from the kind of faith that can survive the stripping season. You did not keep saying yes because the road was easy. You kept saying yes because something in you knew that to disobey would wound you more deeply than to lose. Even when your emotions protested, your spirit still leaned toward God. Even when your mind asked questions that had no quick answers, your inner life kept whispering, "I will trust you here too." That is not small. That is not ordinary. That is the fragrance of a life that has chosen surrender over self-preservation. When Joseph served in the house of Potiphar, he was already living after loss. He was already moving through a world he never would have chosen. Yet he did not allow loss to make him careless. He did not say, "Since everything I loved was taken, nothing matters now." He carried excellence into a painful chapter. He carried integrity into a place born from injustice. That is what makes his story so powerful for you now. The lesson is not that loss disappears quickly. The lesson is that a soul anchored in God can remain fruitful even while grieving. You are learning the same mystery. The things you had to release did not destroy your calling. They uncovered it. They revealed that your strength was never rooted in possessions, positions, people, or predictable outcomes. It was rooted in the God who remained with you when everything else shifted. And maybe this is the place where your heart needs gentleness more than force. You do not have to act as though the losses meant nothing. They did mean something. They were painful. They were formative. They left marks, but they did not have the authority to define your future. What obedience took from your hands, heaven can restore in its own purified form. What God did not allow to remain was never meant to govern your next chapter. The release was real, but so is the purpose that followed it. The emptiness was real, but so is the preparation happening inside it. So as you listen and let this settle into your spirit, let this message become a resting place for your faith. If it speaks to what you have been carrying, let your quiet support reflect that. You can like this message, share it with someone who is walking through hidden loss, and subscribe if you want to keep receiving this kind of encouragement. And for those who feel led to help sustain this work, there is also a way to donate through the description. Not as pressure, but as a simple act of partnership in spreading light to the ones still learning how to obey through the ache. Because that is what you are doing now. You are learning how to walk forward without demanding that yesterday return. You are learning how to bless the name of God in a season that took much from you. You are learning how to release what was precious without releasing your trust. And that is why the loss did not have the final word. It never did. The final word belongs to the God who sees what obedience costs, who gathers every tear without wasting one, and who knows how to turn surrendered pain into the very ground where future glory begins to rise. What makes hidden obedience so difficult is not only the pain of what you release, but the silence that follows after the release is made. You let go, and then heaven does not always explain itself right away. You surrender, and then you are left in a place where your only companion is trust. That is where many hearts begin to grow weary, not because they no longer love God, but because they cannot see what their obedience is building. And yet this is often the very place where heaven is keeping the clearest record. The world may only notice grand moments, public victories, and visible outcomes. But God watches the inner ledger. He watches the small refusal to return evil for evil. He watches the hidden prayer whispered through exhaustion. He watches the restraint that keeps you from speaking out of wounded pride. He watches the private choices that no human being applauds. What is hidden from people is not hidden from Him. This is why your story has more weight than it seems. You have lived through moments that looked ordinary from the outside, yet they carried eternal significance. A delayed reaction, a surrendered desire, a temptation refused, a bitterness resisted, a weary day endured without turning against God. These things do not always look dramatic, but they shape the deepest parts of who you are becoming. Heaven does not measure your faithfulness by how impressive it appears to others. Heaven measures by truth, by surrender, by the posture of your spirit when no one is watching. That is why you must not call your hidden season empty. It has been full of witnesses you could not see. Joseph lived inside that mystery for longer than most people realize. He was not only betrayed by his brothers and sold into a life he never chose, he was also required to live with the long silence that followed. Day after day, he had to keep serving, keep breathing, keep showing up, while the dream in his heart seemed farther away than ever. He did not have a scroll in his hand explaining every turn. He did not wake up each morning with fresh, visible proof that God was moving. He had memory, promise, and the unseen companionship of God. That was enough to keep him. But it did not make the process painless. He still had to choose who he would become in the middle of uncertainty. Then another testing came. In the house where he served faithfully, Joseph was faced with a different kind of pressure. This was not the pain of being attacked from a distance. This was the pressure of compromise standing close, offering immediate pleasure and immediate ruin in the same breath. Joseph could have justified a moment of weakness. He could have reasoned that life had already been unfair to him, so one hidden indulgence would not matter. But that is not the way of a consecrated soul. The fear of God in him was stronger than the hunger of the flesh, stronger than the bitterness of injustice. Stronger than the loneliness of his condition. So he refused what would have stained his calling, even though refusal cost him dearly. You know this battlefield too. Not every attack in your life has come through obvious opposition. Some have come through subtle invitations, a shortcut, a compromise, a secret arrangement that promised relief but carried corruption beneath it. And perhaps what made the temptation powerful was not that you were careless, but that you were tired. Tired people are often tempted by anything that offers quick comfort. Wounded people are often tempted by anything that looks like control. But still, by the mercy of God, you chose obedience. You chose not to trade your peace for a temporary escape. You chose not to soothe your pain with something that would wound your spirit. That choice mattered more than you know. Joseph's reward for integrity was not immediate promotion. It was false accusation. It was deeper confinement. It was the kind of outcome that could make a person question whether righteousness is worth the cost. But even there, heaven's ledger did not fail. The silence after obedience did not mean the record had been erased. It meant the record was being preserved for a moment not yet revealed. This is where your heart must become strong. There are seasons when obedience appears to make life harder before it makes life clearer. There are moments when doing what is right seems to push you deeper into obscurity, but appearances are not the final truth. God is not unjust. He does not forget what is done in reverence, what is surrendered in love, what is resisted in holiness, what is carried in faith. Even now, things are being stored for your appointed hour. Wisdom is being stored, strength is being stored, clarity is being stored. The maturity formed through your hidden battles is not disappearing into the dust. It is being gathered into the future God has prepared. That is why you must keep your spirit free from despair. You are not pouring yourself into a void. You are sowing into the careful memory of God. And when He opens what He has kept, you will understand that no clean choice was wasted, no private sacrifice was ignored, and no unseen act of faithfulness fell to the ground. And before we move further, for those who have been feeling mentally foggy, drained, distracted, or unable to focus as you try to stay spiritually and emotionally steady, there is one resource some people explore called the Genius Wave or Genius Song. It is presented as a short audio based on brainwave entrainment, using sounds such as binaural beats and isochronic tones, with the aim of supporting focus, clarity, creativity, calm, and better mental flow in just a few minutes a day. Some also look into it because they are trying to reduce stress, think more clearly, or regain a sense of mental sharpness during demanding seasons. If that seems relevant to you, you can check the official information in the description or pinned comment. Be careful with imitations and only use official sources if you decide to try it. But deeper than any tool, chosen one, remember this. Your mind is not your master and your exhaustion is not your identity. God is still guarding what He placed inside you. The same Lord who kept Joseph through confusion, temptation, and false accusation is keeping you through your own hidden chapter. Heaven's record is intact. Your obedience is remembered, and the silence around you is not the absence of God. It is often the chamber where He prepares the next unveiling. There comes a moment in every hidden season when the unseen realm begins to move, before the visible world shows any sign of change. Nothing around you may look different at first. The same walls may still stand around you. The same unanswered questions may still hover over your days. The same memories may still try to whisper that you have been delayed too long. But beneath what human eyes can measure, a shift begins. Heaven does not always announce its turning points with thunder. Sometimes it begins with a quiet command released in the spirit, a command that starts arranging people, timing, favor, memory, and opportunity with a precision no earthly mind could invent. This is the hour you are beginning to understand. Your obedience did not only preserve you, it prepared a moment of movement that was already written long before you felt the weight of the waiting. Joseph came to this kind of turning point while still in confinement. That is what makes the lesson so powerful. The shift did not begin when he entered the palace. It began while he was still in the place that looked restrictive, still in the chapter that seemed unresolved, still in the environment that gave no outward evidence of acceleration. Yet God had not stopped governing his story for 1 second. In the hidden chamber of delay, the next sequence had already begun. A dream would trouble a ruler. A memory would rise in the mind of a man who had once forgotten him. A door that no force on earth could open by human striving would suddenly become reachable because heaven had decided the time was no longer later. It was now. This is how God often works with his chosen ones. He lets the process become deep enough that you stop trusting noise, performance, and desperate effort. He teaches you how to wait with your soul anchored in him. Then, when the appointed time comes, he moves with a kind of authority that does not need explanation. What was locked begins to open. What was forgotten begins to be remembered. What seemed buried begins to call forth life. And what makes this so holy is that the movement is not random. It is a response to a long history of hidden alignment. You did not manipulate your way here. You did not scheme your way here. You obeyed your way here, tear by tear, choice by choice, surrender by surrender. Think of Joseph interpreting dreams in prison. Even there, he was still serving. Even there, he was still discerning. Even there, he was still using what God had placed inside him. That matters deeply for your own journey. The hidden season is not empty just because it is restrained. God often causes your gifts to remain alive in places where your future seems impossible. He lets the oil keep flowing even where the room feels narrow. Joseph could have shut down inwardly. He could have said that since life had treated him unjustly, he would no longer pour himself out. Yet he remained available to God. He remained attentive. He remained faithful with what was in his hand before anything greater arrived. That is what made him ready when heaven called his name through the corridors of delay. You are standing near that same kind of threshold. The angels begin moving not because you forced a breakthrough, but because your obedience has ripened into readiness. There is a difference between wanting change and being prepared to carry change. God has been building the second one in you. He has been strengthening what must remain stable when visibility increases. He has been healing what must not sabotage the next chapter. He has been teaching you not to lean on pride, panic, or praise. So when movement comes, it will not destroy you. It will reveal what was forged in secret. Perhaps one of the hardest parts of waiting has been the feeling that people forgot what you carried. Joseph knew that sting when the one who benefited from his gift did not remember him right away. There is a special ache in being helpful, faithful, and sincere, only to be left behind in someone else's relief. But even that delay was under God. What people forget, heaven can restore at the exact right time. What people overlook, heaven can summon into view without struggle. What people delay, heaven can accelerate in a single appointed moment. That is why your peace cannot be built on human remembrance. It must be built on divine timing. Scripture says, until the time that his word came to pass, the word of the Lord tested him. In Psalm chapter 105, verse 19. That is the mystery you have been living. The promise did not disappear while you were being tested by the distance between what was spoken and what was seen. The word was still alive, and the testing was not there to destroy it. The testing was there to refine you until the appointed moment could meet a prepared vessel. Joseph was not merely waiting for the word, he was being shaped by the word. And so are you. Now the atmosphere around your life is beginning to change. Not by spectacle, but by order. Not by confusion, but by divine arrangement. People, places, and moments are being drawn into position. Things that looked unrelated are about to reveal their connection. What once seemed like separate wounds, separate delays, and separate battles will begin to show themselves as part of a single story held together by God's hand. This is why you must stay calm in spirit. Do not rush ahead of what heaven is doing. Do not speak from fear. Do not return to old striving. The God who preserved Joseph through the pit, the house of testing, and the prison of delay knows how to complete what he began. So breathe again, chosen one. The stillness is not empty anymore. The hidden chamber is not silent anymore. Something has begun to move that cannot be reversed by doubt, blocked by envy, or stolen by delay. The angels are lifting what has been held low. The word that tested you is now preparing to reveal you. And when the visible change finally appears, you will know it did not start on that day. It started long ago, in the secret place where you kept obeying and heaven kept watching. And then the hidden life begins to open, not all at once, not with noise first, not with the kind of entrance people imagine when they think about elevation. It begins with God bringing you out of obscurity in a way that makes it clear the light is not coming from human approval. The light is coming from divine appointment. Joseph knew this moment. After long seasons of being unseen, misjudged, restricted, and delayed, there came a day when he was called out from the place that had held him. He did not force that summons. He did not campaign for that summons. He did not break the doors down with fleshly effort. The call came because heaven had already set the hour. This is the part of your journey that your soul has been straining toward without fully knowing how to name it. You have not simply wanted relief. You have wanted release into what God actually said. You have wanted the hidden things to make sense. You have wanted the years of obedience to reveal their fruit. And now, just as Joseph was drawn from confinement into a place of visibility, you are entering a season where what was formed in the dark can no longer remain concealed forever. The same God who sheltered you in secret knows the exact moment when concealment has finished its work and revelation must begin. But this kind of lifting is not merely about being seen. It is about being seen rightly. That is why God took so much time with your foundations. If he had brought you into visibility before healing had deepened in you, the pressure of exposure might have crushed your peace. If he had raised you too quickly, praise might have become a snare. If he had opened the next door before your spirit learned surrender, your gift could have outrun your character. So he kept you in places where only truth could remain. He taught you how to live without constant recognition. He taught you how to draw strength from his presence instead of from public reaction. And now, because that work has gone deep, the light that is coming will not merely reveal your face. It will reveal his faithfulness. Joseph stood before Pharaoh not as the same young dreamer who had once spoken from raw wonder. He stood there changed, humbled, tested, ripened by suffering, cleansed by time, strengthened by the companionship of God in hidden places. That is what made him ready to interpret with wisdom rather than impulse. That is what made him stable in a room where lesser souls might have trembled. The years of obscurity had not diminished him. They had refined his capacity to carry influence without losing alignment. This is what God has been doing in you. The quiet years were not erasing you. They were preparing your inner life to stand in brighter places without forgetting the one who brought you there. And perhaps this is what your heart needs to hear most clearly now. You are not being lifted into the light so that people can worship your story. You are being lifted so that God can place a visible testimony where hidden obedience once stood. The light is not the reward of ego, and it is the unveiling of evidence. It is heaven saying, this one did not break in private. This one did not surrender integrity for speed. This one did not let delay poison the soul. This one remained under my hand. That is why the elevation carries glory. Not self-glory, but the kind that causes people to realize that God really does keep those who trust Him. There is a tenderness in this part of the journey too, because coming into light after a long hidden season can feel unfamiliar. You have learned to survive in quiet. You have learned to draw close to God in places where few understood you. So when visibility begins to increase, there may be a part of you that wants to retreat again. But do not mistake holy caution for fear. The same God who guarded you in obscurity will guard you in visibility. The same God who kept Joseph in the prison also kept Joseph in the palace. Circumstances changed, but the keeper did not. Your safety has never been in darkness itself. Your safety has always been in the presence of God. So walk gently, but do walk. Step forward when He opens the space. Receive what He brings without apologizing for it. Do not shrink in false humility when heaven is making room for you. Joseph did not stand before Pharaoh and pretend he had nothing to offer. He answered with humility, but he still answered. He gave God glory, yet he did not hide the gift God had placed within him. That is your wisdom now. Remain humble, but do not bury what God is unveiling. Remain soft in spirit, but do not refuse the room He opens. Remain dependent on Him, but do not speak as though the years of shaping produced nothing. And as this message settles into you, let it become something you do not keep only to yourself. If these words are strengthening your spirit in this season, you can like this message, share it with someone who has been hidden for too long, and subscribe so you can keep walking through these moments of encouragement with us. And if you want to support this work in a deeper way, there is also a donation option in the description for those who feel led to help keep this kind of message reaching the people who need it. Because the truth is, chosen one, you are not emerging by accident. You are being called out with intention. The same hand that covered you is now uncovering you. The same voice that trained you in silence is now teaching you how to stand in the light without fear. The hidden years are not being discarded. They are becoming visible in another form. They are becoming wisdom in your words, steadiness in your decisions, compassion in your presence, and authority in your spirit. People may only notice the moment you appear, but heaven knows the whole story. Heaven knows the prayers, the tears, the restraint, the surrender, the nights of confusion, and the mornings when you kept obeying anyway. So do not be startled by the opening. Do not be intimidated by the visibility. Do not talk yourself out of what God is doing because it feels larger than the life you have known. Joseph was still Joseph when he came into the light, but he was no longer hidden. And you are still you, but the season of remaining buried under misunderstanding, delay, and obscurity is giving way to something else. The angels are lifting you into a place where what God placed within you can shine with clean fire. Not for vanity, it's not for performance, but for purpose. And because this lifting comes from God, no darkness that once surrounded you has the authority to push you back into hiding again. By the time God begins to lift you into the light, you also begin to understand why darkness fought so hard to keep you buried. The resistance was never only about your comfort, your timing, or your emotions. It was about what your obedience would eventually produce. Darkness is threatened by anyone who keeps saying yes to God in private, because private obedience becomes public authority in the appointed hour. What was being formed in you was never small. That is why the attacks were so persistent. That is why confusion tried to wrap around your mind. That is why discouragement sat near your door. That is why betrayal, temptation, delay, and accusation all seemed to gather around the same calling. The battle was intense because the outcome carries weight. Joseph's life reveals this with painful clarity. The hatred that rose against him did not begin after he was promoted. It began when his future was still hidden inside a dream. His brothers saw something on him that disturbed them before they could even explain it. The favor, the sense of distinction, the mystery of a life marked by God, all of it stirred the darkness working through wounded hearts. What they opposed in Joseph was not merely his personality. They were reacting to the destiny they could feel but not control. That is how spiritual conflict often works. Not everyone knows why your presence unsettles them. Not everyone understands why your refusal to bend exposes something in them. But the warfare is real, even when human language is too shallow to name it. This is why you must stop interpreting every hardship as random. Some opposition came because of choices. Some pain came because of life in a broken world. But some resistance came because your obedience threatened a pattern darkness wanted to preserve. Your silence threatened it because it did not know how to manipulate a soul that keeps running to God. Your purity threatened it because it could not seduce what had already been surrendered. Your patience threatened it because darkness often depends on panic to push people into premature decisions. Even your hidden tears threatened it, because each tear laid before God became another seed of intimacy, another witness in heaven, another sign that your spirit was still alive and still turned toward the Lord. Joseph faced more than one form of resistance. First came rejection from his own house. Then came forced displacement. Then came temptation dressed as opportunity. Then came false accusation dressed as moral outrage. Darkness is not creative in the deepest sense, but it is persistent. It shifts masks. If it cannot destroy the dream through betrayal, it will try through seduction. If it cannot seduce, it will accuse. If it cannot accuse effectively, it will attempt delay. Yet through every form, Joseph remained held by God. He was not untouched, but he was preserved. That distinction matters. Preservation does not always mean you feel no pain. It means pain is not given permission to erase what God has decided. You have lived under that same preserving hand. There were moments when darkness tried to convince you that weariness was your identity. Moments when it whispered that because the road had become hard, perhaps you had misheard God from the beginning. Moments when loneliness tried to interpret itself as abandonment. Moments when shame tried to borrow the voice of truth. Moments when the enemy hoped one more disappointment would be enough to make you disobey. Compromise, numb yourself, or turn cold. But here you are. Not because the warfare was imaginary, and not because you were strong in your own power, but because God kept breathing courage into the place where you were weakest. And now that you are closer to the unveiling, the reason for the warfare becomes clearer. Darkness does not waste itself attacking what carries no threat to its order. It resists what exposes it. Joseph's obedience exposed corruption. His integrity exposed lust. His wisdom exposed famine before it arrived. His very survival exposed the lie that betrayal can cancel divine purpose. That is why his story had to pass through conflict. What he carried was meant to preserve many lives, and darkness always trembles when a surrendered person is being prepared to become a source of preservation for others. That truth touches your life too. Your obedience is not only about you making it through, it is about what will flow through you once you stand in the place God prepared. There are people who will draw courage from your steadiness. There are souls who will recognize God's faithfulness because you did not quit in the hidden place. There are chains that will break around you simply because you learned how to remain aligned under pressure. The enemy sensed that before you did, which is why the pressure came so heavily. But spiritual pressure is not proof that darkness owns the field. Often it is proof that darkness knows it is losing ground. Scripture says, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper." In Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17. Notice the weapon may form. The resistance may arise. The accusation may speak. The pressure may intensify. But formation is not the same as victory. A weapon can exist and still fail. A scheme can be launched and still collapse. A season can feel violent and still end with God's purpose standing untouched. Joseph is living proof of that mystery. The pit formed, but it did not prosper. The seduction formed, but it did not prosper. The lie formed, but it did not prosper. The prison formed, but it did not prosper. None of those things were pleasant, but none of them had the final word. This is why you must guard your interpretation now. Do not call yourself cursed because you were opposed. Do not call yourself forgotten because you were delayed. Do not call yourself defeated because the warfare was fierce. The very intensity of the resistance may be revealing the seriousness of what God placed inside you. Not in a way that feeds pride, but in a way that restores perspective. You were not under attack because you were empty. You were under attack because heaven marked you and hell recognized movement before earth did. So let your spirit settle into this truth. The darkness tried to stop you because your obedience was building something it could not corrupt. It tried to wear you down before your time came. It tried to make you surrender your peace before your light was revealed. It tried to make you interpret the battle as failure rather than formation. But the God who covered Joseph through every hostile turn is covering you still. And now, what once fought to keep you hidden will soon have to witness what it failed to destroy. The same obedience that made you a target is becoming the reason you are standing at the edge of visible elevation, carrying a light that opposition could resist for a season, but never extinguish. By now, you can feel that obedience has done more in you than simply help you survive. It has been shaping authority. Not the loud authority that depends on attention, control, or intimidation, but the kind that is forged in surrender, the kind that can carry weight because it has first learned how to kneel. This is one of the deepest mysteries in the life of anyone chosen by God. You expect obedience to make you softer, and it does. You expect surrender to make you humbler, and it does. But somewhere along the way, that same surrender also forms a crown you did not know was being prepared. Not a crown of pride, not a crown of self-importance, but a spiritual authority that comes from having been tested, broken open, purified, and still found faithful. Joseph walked into this reality without announcing it. He did not become powerful because he demanded power. He became trustworthy through submission. He became weighty through endurance. He became a vessel of unusual wisdom because pain had stripped away the need to impress. By the time he stood in a place of influence, He was no longer trying to prove that God was with him. He had already lived with God in too many hidden places to need validation from men. That is what gave his words force. That is what gave his presence gravity. The crown on Joseph's life was not made in the palace. It was formed in the pit, strengthened in service, purified in temptation, and polished in confinement. That is what has been happening to you. Every act of obedience that felt costly was adding substance to your inner life. Every time you surrendered your will instead of forcing your own way, another layer of false strength fell off, and true strength rose in its place. Every time you chose truth over ease, another thread was woven into the crown God was preparing over your life. You may not have understood it while you were walking through the hard places. You may have thought you were only losing, only waiting, only enduring. But heaven was not merely watching you endure. Heaven was building rank in your spirit. Heaven was establishing a depth in you that cannot be manufactured by ambition. This is why some people will never understand the authority you carry now. They only see the surface. They only see where you stand today. They do not see what obedience cost you. They do not see the tears behind your discernment, the restraint behind your peace, the private battles behind your clarity. They do not see how many times you were given the chance to become bitter and refused. They do not see how many nights you could have gone numb and instead stayed tender before God. But heaven sees. Heaven knows why your words are beginning to carry a different sound. Heaven knows why your presence shifts atmospheres without effort. It is because surrendered people carry something that striving people cannot imitate. Joseph becomes a ruler. But even then, the deeper crown on his life is not the title. It is the maturity to hold power without revenge. That is the true sign of authority formed through obedience. A wounded ego uses power to settle scores. A healed spirit uses power to preserve life. Joseph had every reason by human standards to become harsh when his brothers stood before him. He had every opportunity to let pain speak from the throne. But what years of submission had formed in him was greater than the pain years of betrayal had left in him. That is the mark of a crown shaped by God. It does not merely raise you above others, it raises you above the old version of yourself, and that is where your own transformation becomes holy. The crown being formed on your life is not just about what you will do. It is about who you have become. You are not the same person who first stepped into this hidden process. You are less easily shaken. You hear more clearly. You sense more deeply. You react less quickly. You understand the cost of God's presence more than you once did. There is more mercy in you, but also more discernment, more softness, but also more strength, more patience, but also more authority. This is what obedience does when it is allowed to finish its work. It turns surrender into stature. Scripture says, "Humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time." In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. That verse carries the whole pattern of your journey. First comes the humbling, the yielding, the staying low under the hand of God. Then comes the due time, not your rush time, not your wounded time, not your impatient time, but his appointed time. Joseph could not crown himself. He had to remain under God's hand until the hour came. And now you are seeing the same law at work in your own life. Submission was not a detour from strength. Submission was the road into it. So do not think lightly of what God has built in secret. The crown formed through submission is not fragile. It does not depend on applause to stay in place. It does not vanish when the room changes. It is held by the same God who forged it through process That means what you carry now is not easily stolen. The peace that came through obedience cannot be taken by noise. The wisdom that came through suffering cannot be faked by performance. The authority that came through surrender cannot be replaced by image. It is real because God made it real. If this speaks to your spirit, comment "I receive." Let that simple response be your quiet agreement with what heaven has been building in you all along. Because the truth is, chosen one, your submission did not make you smaller. It made you ready. It did not erase your identity. It refined it. It did not strip you of dignity. It clothed you in something deeper than human recognition could ever give. What has been formed on your life is clean, weighty, and lasting. And as this crown of holy authority settles more fully upon you, you will begin to walk with a steadiness that surprises even you. Not because you became proud, but because obedience has finally shown you what heaven was making all along. It was never just survival. It was preparation for a life that could carry glory without collapsing under it, and carry influence without forgetting the God who lifted you there. What happens after long obedience is not simply that your circumstances change. Something even deeper begins to unfold. Your identity starts to come into view with a clarity that pain could not destroy and delay could not erase. For a long time, you knew pieces of yourself only through pressure. You knew your strength because you had to endure. You knew your faith because you had to keep trusting in the dark. You knew your discipline because temptation and disappointment kept testing it. But now another kind of knowing begins. You start to see who you are becoming, not merely through what you survived, but through what heaven has been revealing all along. This is the sacred unveiling of identity. Not the identity given by wounds, labels, rejection, or misunderstanding, but the identity God saw before the process even began. Joseph reaches this moment in a way that is both powerful and tender. He does not only rise into influence, he begins to recognize the meaning of his journey through the eyes of God rather than through the lens of pain alone. That shift is everything. Until then, many parts of his story could have been read as loss, injustice, betrayal, and postponement. Those things were real and they hurt. But when Joseph sees the larger hand of God at work, the fragments begin to gather into a single picture. He is no longer just the rejected son, the enslaved servant, the falsely accused man, or the forgotten prisoner. He is becoming a preserver of life. He is becoming a vessel through whom God's wisdom reaches beyond his own wounds and touches entire generations. This is what the hidden years were leading toward. You are arriving at that same revelation. Slowly, gently, and with a depth that only God can create, you are beginning to understand that your life cannot be defined by the lowest place you passed through. You are not the pit. You are not the accusation. You are not the delay. You are not the chapter where people failed to recognize what God placed in you. Those were places in your journey, but they were never your name. The process may have shaped you, but it was never meant to reduce you to your suffering. God was always calling something greater out of you. He was not only bringing you through hardship, he was revealing a self that could not have fully emerged without refinement. That is why this season feels different in your spirit. There is a new steadiness rising in you. Not arrogance, but recognition. Not self-worship, but clarity. You are beginning to sense that the person you are becoming is not a stranger. It is the truest version of you, the one heaven knew while you were still learning in shadows. The compassion in you is deeper now. The wisdom in you is less borrowed and more lived. The discernment in you is quieter, cleaner, more grounded. Even your strength has changed. It no longer depends on proving anything. It rests. It sees. It waits when needed. It moves when led. This is the identity that emerges after obedience has done its work. Joseph shows you that revealed identity is not about forgetting what happened. It is about seeing it from above. When he finally stands before his brothers, he is not denying the evil that was done. He is not pretending the pain was pleasant, but he is no longer imprisoned by a narrow interpretation of his own story. He can now see that God carried purpose through what human hands meant for harm. That does not make betrayal holy. It makes God sovereign. And that sovereignty frees Joseph to stand in his true identity without being chained to revenge, bitterness, or self-pity. He knows who he is now, and because he knows who he is, he does not have to return to who he was when he was wounded. This is where freedom begins to deepen for you too. When identity is revealed by God, you stop needing every person to understand you. You stop needing every injustice to be explained before you can move forward. You stop needing the past to bow before you in order for your heart to feel secure. You begin to stand in a deeper place, a place where your peace comes from God's interpretation of your life, not from public opinion or delayed human validation. That is one of the clearest signs that healing and purpose are meeting inside you. You no longer see yourself only through the eyes of those who underestimated you. You begin to see yourself through the eyes of the one who called you, kept you, tested you, and lifted you. Scripture says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose in Romans chapter 8, verse 28. That verse does not say all things are good. Joseph's story proves that plainly. Some things are painful, unjust, and deeply grievous. But God is able to work through all things for good in the life of the one who loves him and is called according to his purpose. That is the mystery now unfolding in your own story. The pieces are not wasted pieces. The years are not dead years. The tears are not empty tears. God has been weaving, gathering, restoring, and revealing all along. So let yourself receive this unveiling with humility and with peace. You do not have to force your new identity into existence. You do not have to shout it to make it real. You simply need to walk with God as he reveals it more fully. Let him rename the places where shame once tried to define you. Let him show you the beauty that was forged beneath endurance. Let him uncover the calling that was maturing while nobody understood the cost. Let him teach you how to carry this revealed self without fear, because you are no longer only the one who obeyed in secret. You are also the one being revealed in the light, not as a copy of what others expected, but as the person heaven intended from the beginning. Joseph had to live long enough to discover that the dream was never about his ego. It was about his assignment. And you are discovering the same thing. Your hidden obedience was not merely preserving your future. It was uncovering your true identity. The self God is revealing now is stronger than what tried to break you, gentler than what pain tried to harden, and wiser than what delay tried to confuse. This is who you are becoming in the light, and this is who heaven saw even when you were still walking through the dark. And now you step forward with a different kind of knowing in your spirit. Not the fragile knowing that depends on perfect circumstances, and not the fearful knowing that keeps looking over its shoulder, but the settled knowing that God has been with you through every hidden chapter and has not failed you once. You have come too far with him to call your story accidental. You have cried too many secret tears before him to believe that heaven was absent. You have obeyed too deeply in private to think that the light now rising over your life is random. This is the hour where you stop speaking of yourself as though you are still trapped in the lowest room you passed through. This is the hour where you begin to walk like someone who has been carried, corrected, refined, preserved, and finally lifted by the hand of God. Joseph came to this kind of maturity when the story had unfolded enough for him to stand without panic in the place prepared for him. He was no longer the young man speaking from raw beginnings. He had become someone who understood timing, stewardship, mercy, and restraint. He knew what it was to be hidden, and because he knew hiddenness, he could stand in visibility without being consumed by it. He knew what it was to lose, and because he knew loss, he could hold responsibility without making an idol of it. He knew what it was to suffer injustice, and because he knew that pain, he could lead without becoming cruel. This is the beauty of what God has been doing in you. He has not merely been bringing you out. He has been making you ready to walk well once you are out. So now you move boldly but not harshly. You move with conviction but not arrogance. You move with peace but not passivity. The hidden years have taught you too much for you to return to shallow living. You know what it costs to keep your heart clean. You know what it means to wait under pressure without letting darkness rewrite your nature. You know what it means to trust God when no visible sign appears. And because you know these things now, your next step carries a different weight. You are not stepping forward as someone desperate to be noticed. You are stepping forward as someone willing to be used. That is a holy difference. The world teaches people to chase position for validation, but God teaches His chosen ones to carry position as assignment. This means you do not have to apologize for the light on your life. You do not have to shrink because others are more comfortable with the version of you that stayed hidden. You do not have to keep calling yourself small when God has spent so much time enlarging your spirit. Humility is not pretending you have nothing. Humility is knowing exactly where what you carry came from. It came from God. The wisdom came from God. The endurance came from God. The mercy came from God. The timing came from God. The lifting came from God. So you can walk forward without pride and without fear, because your confidence is not in yourself. Your confidence is in the one who formed you in secret and revealed you in truth. And as you stand at this threshold, let prayer rise naturally from your heart. Father, thank you for every hidden place where you kept me when I did not understand what you were doing. Thank you for every moment you protected me from what would have weakened me, even when I called it delay. Thank you for every tear you saw, every surrender you received, every secret act of obedience you remembered. Thank you for not abandoning me in the pit, in the testing, in the waiting, or in the silence. Thank you for carrying me when my strength felt thin and for correcting me when my heart was tempted to grow weary. Lord, let the light you are bringing into my life never make me forget the place where I learned to depend on you. Keep me humble under your hand. Keep me clean in heart. Keep me bold in truth. Let what you reveal through my life bring glory to your name and life to others. Heal every place in me that still trembles from old pain, and teach me to walk fully in the identity you have spoken over me. Let no fear of people, no memory of rejection, and no shadow from the past keep me from entering what you have prepared. I receive your timing. I receive your peace. I receive your instruction. And I thank you that what you began in secret, you are faithful to complete in the light. That prayer is not just language. It is alignment. It is the sound of your soul agreeing with heaven after a long season of formation. And this agreement matters, because the way you enter the next chapter matters. Enter it with gratitude. Enter it with reverence. Enter it with your heart still turned toward God. Joseph did not survive all he survived just to become self-made in the end. He remained a man under God's hand. That is your wisdom too. Stay close to the one who brought you through. Stay teachable. Stay prayerful. Stay soft before him even as you become stronger in what you carry. And if this message has walked beside you in a meaningful way, you can like it, share it with someone who needs this encouragement, and subscribe to remain connected to these messages of faith and strength. And for those who want to help support this work more deeply, there is also a donation option in the description as a quiet way to partner in reaching more hearts. But above all, remember this as you go forward. You are not who darkness said you were. You are not what delay tried to name you. You are not the sum of every wound, every betrayal, or every silent night. You are someone God has watched carefully, shaped deliberately, and lifted purposefully. Joseph's story shows you that hidden obedience is never empty. It becomes wisdom. It becomes authority. It becomes compassion. It becomes readiness. And now, in your own life, it becomes movement. It becomes light. It becomes the visible evidence that God does not waste the secret faithfulness of His chosen ones. So walk on. Chosen one. Walk with a calm spirit and a steady heart. Walk with gratitude for the hidden years and courage for the revealed years. Walk knowing that the same God who held you in private will keep you in public. Walk knowing that what He lifts, no darkness can truly bury again. And walk knowing that because you obeyed in secret, the angels are lifting you into the light.